All right, guys, we're going to go through this real quick. What we're going to talk about today is our cloud coverage, or what we're also going to call nuts. Pretty simple. What this is a deep thirds coverage, consistent with what we do with everything else, with rover, dog, and free safety, playing the deep thirds. The change up between this and sky is simply, instead of our dog now rolling up into the flats off the number 2 defender, we now will play flats coverage with our corners. Okay, so we're going to use like a cover 2 technique with those guys to allow us to get in the flats now. Now we really like this coverage if we're having any issues with bubbles or anything like that. Again, we're going to stick to somewhat like cover 2 rules. We're going to play hash rules with our dog and rover. So therefore we always need to be about 2 yards, okay, outside the hash. Now we're going to base this off the number 2 receivers. This is a true 2x2 formation. The corners will be reading number 2. We're going to try to funnel number 1 inside. Now the differences between this coverage is that we have free safety middle hole help. We're allowing our free safety to be aggressive with drag routes and things like that coming across, because again we have deep coverage with dog and rover. Our dog and rover will stay on their landmarks. Immediately at the snap, they will start backpedaling with the slow backpedal, getting themselves depths. We're going to show, just like we do in regular sky coverage, 10 yards depth. So we really at the snap want to be hovering around that 14 yards. At that time period, again, Sam will have hook curl, will have hook curl, Mike will have hole. Mike is responsible for replacing Sam or Will in this coverage. For example, let's pretend we have a right call. So we'll just go ahead and put our defensive end in the right here, nose guard into the right. And we call right Sam. We're going to stay in the stack alignment. We're not plussing when we get a 3x1 with this. Okay, and at that time, our Mike knows at snap that he needs to get over to that hook curl zone right now. His eyes are going to be to undercut number 2 or whoever becomes number 2. The Will's responsible for the same thing, just like we do with anything. We don't just go to landmarks. We want to undercut number 2 or who becomes number 2. Okay, so let's just go ahead and pretend that we have ourselves a hitch route right here by the number 1 and a corner route right here by the number 2 receiver. In this scenario, we're going to try to midpoint again. Okay, we're going to midpoint the corner with the number 2 receiver, trying to get depth and overtop help, as the dog is responsible for that number 2 receiver. The Mike linebacker has a long ways to go to try to undercut number 2 or who becomes number 2, but we're going to try to close that window getting flat across. Okay, now with that being said, let's pretend. So this is a basic 2x2 formation. Okay, so let's pretend right now that this number 2 receiver right here is motioning himself across the formation. Well, the changeup we're going to do in this scenario is that we're still going to be in nuts over here, or cloud. Okay, but this time we're going to run a solo coverage. So this is our check. Our free safety immediately will scream solo, 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 and he's going to roll down and lock up the new number 3 receiver to this side. By locking up that number 3 receiver, we're still going to play cover 2 responsibilities here, cover 2 responsibilities here. We're still going to get to the hook curl zone with the Sam, still get to the hook curl zone with the Will, and have flat coverage with 2 deep coverage by our dog and rover. Okay, so we check solo, keeping our our box integrity by still staying in the stack when we get motioned out to that 3x1. If a team were to go empty on us, we call this form, we call cloud, the same thing. Let's just pretend that the number 3 receiver here chooses to come out of the backfield and motion across to an empty set. We will go ahead and check solo coverage right now. We're going to lock up the number 3 with the free, and then still play 2-on-2 here with underneath help and hook curl zones. Okay, guys, I hope this video helps you. Remember, we just got to play fast and aggressive. We're going to work these cover 2 type responsibilities, even though we are still technically a 3 deep zone. We're going to play it like cover 2 on the edges, And I'll see you next time. Thanks again.